All right, so we know now Marie Antoinette really didn't say let them eat cake, but people called her Madame Deficit, and they're blaming her now for all the starving people in Paris. Well, when you get hangry women, they decide to march from Paris 11 miles, so they're hungry and they're tired and their feet hurt. 6,000 women marched to Versailles to see the king and queen. Women were so frustrated with Marie Antoinette that along the way they actually talked about murdering her. Like the women that once loved like seeing her, hearing from her, like saw her as a celebrity, now they hate her. When they get to Versailles, some angry women force their way into the meeting hall and they're demanding bread. And six of the gals were lucky enough where they got to go meet with Louis the 16th. And his kind of compromise was he's going to give them all the bread in the palace and then send it home with them. And then he went to bed thinking, hey, everything's going to be okay. Well, unfortunately for Louis, the women were not satisfied, and then early the next morning, more women stormed the palace and they demand to see the queen this time. And the queen, of course, has bodyguards. Well, unfortunately, two of the bodyguards were killed. What do you know? Off with their heads, and then heads were placed on pikes. And so some of the women got into Versailles, have the bodyguards' heads on sticks, and they go into her bedroom and they slash her bedding, like they destroy her bedroom, all of that. Well, the National Guard was transporting Louis and Marie and their kids, because they did have a couple children. They were transporting their kids to Paris to try to keep them safe. And at the end of the movie, Marie Antoinette, you see Louis and Marie and the kids in their kind of like chariot going back to Paris and looking out at Versailles. And that's the last time they're ever going to see Versailles. And so the king is going to be suspended from office and be imprisoned. And then they're going to decide what to do with France. Should we continue to be a monarchy? What do we do? Well, ultimately, they decide that for Louis, he is guilty of treason because he had talked with other countries about like invading France to try to distract everything. He had talked with Austria, where Marie Antoinette was from, and so he's guilty of like conspiracy and treason.